Hello everyone, can you hear me? It's Paul Five from Norway. Maria?
I can hear you. Thank you, Paul.
Very
Morning.
Good. I have a problem with the camera, so I'll have to speak like this. I'm sorry for this.
That's okay. As long as we can hear you, that's the most important part. I think we can start.
I can also hear you.
Excellent. So good morning, everyone. Dear Excellencies and distinguished guests, welcome to this webinar, Making Gender Equality Work. My name is Paul Five, and behind this camera, which I'm afraid is broken this morning, I am the Director for Human Development in NORAD, the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation. I'm certain that the conversation today will provide us with the opportunity to gain insight and learn from each other within the areas of gender equality, working life, and cooperation between government, labor unions, and confederation of businesses. But before we start, please allow me to share with you a few housekeeping matters. First, I welcome you all to write your names, institutions, and country in the chat as a way of introduction. Should you have any comments or remarks, please also post them in the chat during the webinar. Questions can be posed in the Q&A, the designated chat box for that. Last, we will be recording the forum so that we can share the recording with you later and for training purposes. The program is fairly tight. The moderator of each session has been tasked to keep track of time, and we kindly ask that you try to keep to the allocated time so that we can keep the schedule. Let me quickly run through the agenda. The first opening session will give each of the countries present digitally today, Ghana, Sudan, Tanzania, and Norway, the opportunity to provide opening remarks. The second session will go into some of the questions that Norway has grappled with on our long journey towards where we are today. We will hear representatives from the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs, the Norwegian Confederation of Norwegian Enterprise, the Norwegian Labour Union, and from Mesta, an enterprise within construction and road engineering. The third session opens for an exchange of experiences between our four countries. We will be hearing from representatives from government, business associations, trade unions, and more. That session will be moderated by one of my colleagues in NORAD, Ms. Maria Usnes. Finally, closing remarks from all countries will wrap up this webinar and leave us with key takeaways from today's exchanges. But please let me now first give the word to State Secretary Ms. Bjørg Sandkjær from the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who has a video greeting for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, it's a pleasure to welcome you to this digital seminar on making gender equality work. We will not be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals without gender equality. Today's topic, women's participation in the labour market and decent work, are part of these common goals. Women's rights and gender equality is a key priority in Norwegian domestic policies as well as in our development cooperation. In our experience, this is a key goal in itself, but it is also a prerequisite for economic development and stable democratic societies. I'm very pleased that we have participants today from 3 countries, from Tanzania, from the Sudan, and Ghana, here today. Through close dialogue with colleagues from your countries, I think we have a clear picture about some of the challenges that you face, and we will continue to listen in order to understand and to seek to address the challenges together with you. Turning first to the Sudan, where the unstable political situation poses special challenges for women. Women's participation in the ongoing political process is critical for finding lasting solutions to the current crisis. Women have to be at the table when decisions are made. We have also seen an increase in sexual and gender-based violence across the Sudan and arrests of women human rights defenders. This is a violation of women's rights and has a negative impact on participation in working life. Women's rights must be protected, also in workplaces. Turning now to Tanzania, the recent changes in government, with an increase in female ministers and the establishment of the Ministry of Community Development, Gender, Women and Special Groups, gives room for optimism. Political leadership and priorities are crucial for achieving gender equality, including in the labour market. Over the past years, gender objectives have gained more recognition and public policy momentum in Ghana. But there are still big gaps. We have learned, for example, that male participation in tertiary education is 2.5 times that of women. As we know, lack of formal education puts women in a more vulnerable situation with less options for decent work with decent pay. In the world of work, we know that women face various obstacles that prevent them from participating in business activities and in the labour market. We know that the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated many of these challenges in all our countries. Women earn less and are overrepresented among those working under unacceptable conditions. We aim for a world of work where women have the same rights and opportunities as men. To achieve this, we must improve legal frameworks and ensure accountability and protection. Experience from my own country, Norway, shows that it pays to invest in women's and girls' education and participation in the workforce. Women's participation in the labour market is as important for Norway's prosperity as our petroleum revenues. The idea behind the programme Gender Equality for Development is to build competence and knowledge through dialogue and sharing of experience. I'm sure that you will have an interesting day with inspiring discussions. Thank you.
Many thanks, State Secretary Sanchar. Now over to opening remarks from Ghana. Dr. Hafiza Zakaria, Chief Director of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection of Ghana. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Honorable Minister, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to observe protocols. I bring you warm greetings from the good people of Ghana and staff of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. It is an honor to be invited by Your Excellency of the Norwegian Embassy to give an open statement and also participate in this prestigious meeting, which aims at offering a platform to exchange experiences, share information, and discuss how to strategically make gender equality effectively work and sustain. Your Excellencies, since the first International Women's Conference in Mexico in 1975 and subsequent conferences related to women and gender issues, the world has experienced profound political, economic, and social changes for the welfare of women and girls across the globe. Many governments, including Ghana, have endorsed various United Nations conventions and declarations to promote gender equality and to mainstream gender perspectives in all spheres of society. Ghana is guided by the 1992 Constitution that guarantees that the human rights of all citizens of the country, including women, children, the vulnerable and excluded, such as the aged and persons with disabilities. These include political, civil, economic, social, and cultural rights. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Ghana has made a commitment to promote the rights and welfare of women, girls, and the vulnerable with the ratification of key international instruments. And these are through various institutions and have developed legal frameworks, policies, strategies, programs, and other interventions that further enhance access to justice, promote leadership and decision-making, accountability, governance, as well as economic opportunities for men, women, the youth, and other vulnerable groups. Key among these policies is the development of the National Gender Policy, which seeks to attain gender parity and provide a detailed roadmap for government institutions and organizations to guide their operations in mainstreaming gender concerns into their plans, policies, and programs, and to ensure that the rights, interests, and special needs of women and girls are integrated into policy formulation and implementation. Others are social protection policy, Ghana school feeding policy, national gender policy, free compulsory universal basic education, free senior high school, Children's Act, Disability Act, National Health Insurance Act, National Plan of Action on the Elimination of the Worst Form of Child Labor, 5-year strategic plan to address adolescent teenage pregnancy, and national framework on ending child marriage. Your Excellencies, concrete efforts on the promulgation of the Affirmative Action Bill are steadily taking shape as the bill is before Cabinet for consideration. This bill, if passed, will go a long way to bridge the gap of gender inequality and its related issues within the country. Your Excellencies, the President of the Republic of Ghana, who is also the co-chair of eminent AU Gender Champion, specifically launched the He for She National Campaign in the year 2017 as part of the UN Global Agenda to ensure gender equality, equity, and empowerment. The campaign has promoted to a large extent the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 5, which is aimed at achieving gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls. In education, there have been notable milestones following years of deliberations and targeted education for girls and the youth in closing gender equality gaps in the sector. The government of Ghana continues to make considerable progress at attaining gender parity in education, particularly at the lower educational levels. Gender parity has been achieved, for instance, at the kindergarten, primary, and junior high school levels. The Ghana School Feeding Program provides one hot, nutritious meal daily for more than 3.4 million children in public basic schools in deprived communities with the aim of reducing hunger and malnutrition, increasing school enrollment, attendance and retention, and boosting domestic food production with a long-term goal of contributing to poverty reduction and food security in Ghana. This is helping to bring the gender gap in education. The program has also provided jobs for 31,000 women who are caterers and cooks, thereby reducing the poverty gap. A free senior high school program is also being implemented to promote access to all school-going pupils, especially girls, to help ensure that all, especially women and girls, have the right to education, which is fundamental for building their capacity for leadership roles. I can confidently say that since the introduction of the free senior high school policy, it's most near parity at the senior high school level for both boys and girls. Ending child marriage and harmful traditional practices are key in assuring gender parity in education. In this regard, the government of Ghana has developed and is implementing a 10-year strategic framework on ending child marriage in Ghana. This initiative is addressing the issue and providing opportunities for girls to be enrolled, retain, and complete their basic education. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a number of advocacy, sensitization, education, and capacity enhancement activities, interventions, programs, and projects are also being implemented to promote women's active participation in leadership and decision-making. They include advocacy programs for the general public and political parties on the Affirmative Action Bill and the National Gender Policy that encourage them to vote for female parliamentary aspirants. This had led to a modest increase in the number of female candidates and the eventual increase in the number of elected female parliamentarians for the current legislature in December 2020 from 36%, 36, that's 12% to 40, which is 14% of parliamentarians. Leaders of traditional religious and faith-based organizations, as well as civil society organizations, are also actively engaged in advocacy. And sensitizations on gender equality and women participation in leadership. work life and decision making at all levels. Mentorship youth clubs have been established in the senior high school and tertiary institutions to enhance gender equality and women empowerment initiatives. A gender equality clinic is also
Dr. Zakaria?
Yes, please.
Excuse me, many thanks. Is it possible to wrap up? We'll come back to you also later in program.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for the platform. We are grateful.
Many, many thanks for this introduction, the opening remarks from Ghana, Dr. Zakaria. Now over to the opening remarks from Tanzania. Dr. Zainab Chola, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Community Development, Gender, Women and Special Groups. Please, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Yes. Dr. Chola, we can hear you. We'll ask everyone to mute basically the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency Elizabeth Jackson, Ambassador of Norway to Tanzania. Professor Jamali Katundu, I haven't seen him, but I suppose he is with us. Prime Minister's Office, Labor, Youth, Employment and Persons with Disability, other government officials from Tanzania, Ghana, Sudan, and Norway, representatives from civil society organizations, all facilitators, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Good morning. No,
good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, indeed. May I take this opportunity on behalf of the government? First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Permanent Secretary, Minister of Community Development, Gender, Women, and Special Groups. I'm coming from the Ministry of Communication. That's why I'm discussing issue of communication. By the way, let me take this opportunity to thank you so much, the government of Norway, for organizing and facilitating this important and highly important meeting. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the organizer of this event, but particularly for invitation, especially for me, for opening remarks. Dear participants, to achieve the gender equality, a priority in our country since the independence back in 1961. And this, it is demonstrated through various initiatives and interventions to address existing inequality within the country. It is in this regard that the country has signed, ratified, and demonstrated a number of regional and international instruments on gender equality and women empowerment. This includes, I suppose we are all aware, there's a lot of move, especially on the Convention on Elimination of all forms of discriminating against women. We are working with the Sustainable Development Goals, Beijing Platform of Action, the Africa we want, since it, way back, we plan to have this until 2063. We are discussing issue of SADC gender protocol and the East African Community gender policy, to mention a few. There's a lot of move, there's a lot of international organization, a platform. We are all working on it. However, you will agree with me that the changing of world technology, especially digital technology, has a significant contribution promoting a gender, especially women. This is due to the fact that it provides a lot of opportunities, and including vulnerable groups such as women, elderly, children, and people with disability to access financial services through network and other communication services through the internet. To excel this, Tanzania has developed implementing national financial inclusion framework. But also the country has developed the Tanzania Women Leadership Database. And through all this initiative, our President, Her Excellency, Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of United Republic of Tanzania, create a new ministry for communication, information, and technology. It was inaugurated on 30th of September 2020. And by then, the minister was a female, was a woman, Dr. Ashatu. There's a lot of initiative, including improving internet, optic fiber, networking, and to mention all, we are implementing Digital Tanzania projects. There's a lot of opportunity to empower women through digital technology. Besides that, on 10th of January, the president initiates new ministry known as Ministry of Community Development, Gender, Women, and Special Groups. All this effort is to empower women and all groups which need support from the government. And good news, the minister for this ministry is a woman, is a doctor by profession, but also I'm a permanent secretary representing many women. So with this opportunity through the government and the political will, we are going to make some improvements. Ladies and gentlemen, but also we launch a database for women to how many through their CV, they can make a chance position to top leaders in this country. And that's why myself, I'm a woman, and with experience with my position of permanent secretary, being the new ministry, her president decided to put me in this ministry so that through this discussion, sharing experience, we can alleviate some of the challenges. Despite of all this move, despite of all this opportunity, there is existing challenges. To mention few, we have low literacy among special groups, especially those living in rural areas. There's a lot of efforts to the government to accelerate digital economy, digital platform within the rural areas. How do we do this? Government put a money around $2 million to make sure that we increase the optic fiber coverage. When you have this optic fiber, that means you accelerate the internet. We are going to make sure that we have this smartphone to use it for business. We use it for many, many things, including reading and getting experience through other areas. But we know few girls enrolled for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Hence, for women in ICT field are very few. So
many
we
thanks.
are trying.
Dear Dr. Trolla, please, many thanks. This is really, really interesting and fascinating, and we'll come back to that. May I ask you, please, to just wrap up your brief introduction, please? Thank you.
My introduction, just to say, I would like to thank you so much. I'm here ready to work with you. You are most welcome in Tanzania, land of peace and a beautiful country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trolla. This was really an inspirational opening. So now over to opening remarks from the Sudan. These will be held in Arabic with translation in the slides. So government representative, Mrs. Soda Al-Tayeb Hassan from the Ministry of Labor and Administrative Reform, please, the floor is all yours.
Could you please unmute, Afra? Can you let her know that she needs to unmute?
Minute. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. السيد وزير مدير منظمات المجتمع المدني الضيوف الكرام السيدات والسادة، يسعدني ويشرفني أن ألتقيكم اليوم في هذا المنتدى الخاص بتطوير وتفعيل المساواة بين الجنسين. إن وزارة العمل والإصلاح الإداري ومن ضمن مهامها واختصاصاتها وضعت في مقدمة أولوياتها السعي لخلق التكامل بين المرأة والرجل وتمتعهم بكافة الحقوق والواجبات في جميع مجالات الحياة، لا سيما في مجال العمل، من أجل المشاركة في التنمية وبناء المجتمع وإنهاء كافة أشكال التمييز، من أجل تحقيق المساواة وتمكين المرأة اقتصادياً وتعزيز حقوقها من خلال التشريعات الوطنية وما جاءت به معايير العمل الدولية والإقليمية التي تمنع التمييز وتنادي بتكافؤ الفرص وتحقيق المساواة في العمل والأجر، وتوفير بيئة العمل المناسبة والتمتع بحقوق الأمومة والتمتع بعدة امتيازات، منها إجازة الأمومة وإجازة الوضع وكثير من الإجازات، وتوفير العمل اللائق والتدريب والترقي والدخول تحت مظلة التأمينات الاجتماعية والصحية وعدم تعرضها للأعمال الشاقة والأخطار والأضرار، وذلك بوضع التشريعات والقوانين الوطنية الحمائية. ولتعزيز حقوق المرأة لا بد من مجابهة بعض التحديات التي تتمثل في الآتي. أول، وأنا أتمنى أن يكون ده يعني وضعي ما دائم، عدم استقرار الأوضاع في السودان. أنا أتمنى إنه نحن ننعم بالاستقرار، لأن عدم الاستقرار أدى لأنه المرأة تنزح وهي تعاني أكثر معاناة. هنالك أيضا كثير من النساء في بعض القطاعات ليس لديهن إلمام بالتشريعات والقوانين الوطنية وما جاءت به معايير العمل الدولية والإقليمية، خاصة المرأة في القطاع غير المنظم. كذلك هنالك نقص في قاعدة بيانات النوع الاجتماعي، حرمان المرأة في القطاع غير المنظم من التشريعات والقوانين الوطنية وعدم تمتعها بالتأمينات الاجتماعية والصحية وبعض التشريعات الحمائية، مما أدى لعدم توفير بيئة العمل اللائقة، تضييق فرص عمل المرأة في سوق العمل. نحن نسعى، وزارة العمل نسعى لبعض الحلول، ومنها السعي لإلمام المرأة بالتشريعات الوطنية وما جاءت به معايير العمل الدولية والإقليمية عن طريق البرامج التوعوية، السعي لإنشاء قاعدة بيانات إحصائية خاصة بالمرأة، السعي لإدخال المرأة في القطاع غير المنظم في مظلة التشريعات والحماية الاجتماعية، تضافر الجهود بين الشركاء الاجتماعيين لتوفير البيئة اللائقة في الحياة العملية، تطبيق سياسة العمل عن بعد لضمان استدامة المرأة في العمل، خاصة في ظل الأزمة الاقتصادية وجائحة كورونا. وفي الختام، لا يسعني إلا أن أشكر وزارة الخارجية النرويجية ممثلة في السيدة السفيرة تريزا لوكان والجهات المنظمة للمنتدى على مجهوداتهم الكبيرة في السعي لتفعيل وتطوير المساواة بين الجنسين، ويمتد الشكر والتقدير لكل الدول وأخص ممثلتي دولتي غانا وتنزانيا والمنظمات الأخرى التي عملت وأسهمت بصورة فاعلة في مجال تعزيز حقوق المرأة، ونأمل أن يكون هنالك بيننا تعاون من أجل تعزيز حقوق المرأة، ووفقنا الله وإياكم لإصلاح البلاد والعباد، وشكرا جزيلا.
Thank you.
Many thanks, Government Representative Ms. Sodha Al-Tayeb-Hassan. This concludes the opening session. Again, apologies that my camera is not working and I am not able to show you the appropriate respect from my side. So to moderate part 2 on sharing of Norwegian experiences, I have the pleasure to introduce Ms. Marianne Holden, Program Coordinator of the Gender Equality for Development Program at the Norwegian Directorate for Children, Youth and Family Affairs. Marianne, over to you.
Thank you very much for those words. And now we're moving on to the second session of the day, sharing experiences from Norway on gender equality, social dialogue, and tripartite cooperation. So my name is Marianne Holden, and I work in the Norwegian Agency for Children, Youth and Family Affairs, the government agency responsible for equality in Norway, under the Ministry of Culture and Equality, and also one of the implementing partners in the Gender Equality for Development program. So first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today This is our first time hosting this kind of webinar, so we very much appreciate that so many took their time to attend. Social dialogue and tripartite cooperation are important means of advancing gender equality in working life. So the aim of this session is to take a closer look at how exactly the Norwegian government works with the social partners, trade unions, employers' organizations to strengthen women's rights and participation in the labor market. We hope the session will be inspiring and aim to give concrete examples on what worked in Norway and what challenges remain. To make sure we're communicating the best we can, we have a chat to source your questions. So feel free to drop questions on the topic or even share your own experiences, and we will make sure to answer as many of these as we can after the panel. Please also include who you are and where you're from when asking a question, and if you're addressing the question to a specific person. And feel free to upvote or like your favorite question as well. You can do that in the Q&A. Also, please note that there will be recording and sharing the presentation and panel conversation once they're available after the webinar. The Q&A portion of the session, however, will not be recorded. That said, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you our first speaker, Ms. Juliet Namoli Birabwa Havland, Acting Deputy Director General in the Norwegian Ministry of Culture and Equality. Ms. Namoli Birabwa Havland, please feel free to speak whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mariana, and good morning to everybody. A special welcome to representatives from Ghana, Tanzania, and Sudan. Very happy to be here with you today. My name is Juliet Namoli Birabwa Havland. I am the Acting Deputy Director General in the Department of Equality, Non-Discrimination and International Affairs in the Ministry of Culture and Equality, responsible for leading the section working with legal and international issues. I normally hold a position as a policy director in the ministry, and I've worked with developing equality policies for the last 12 years at ministry level. Next. Today, I'd like to say a few words about gender equality in work life, or more precisely, gender equality and women's rights in the Norwegian work life. If we look to the case of Norway, the first thing we notice is that the labor market is formal and highly regulated. This is not the case in many other countries that maybe have a large informal labor market that goes together with a formal labor market. In the case of Norway, everybody who works and receives an income must inform the government about their income and pay taxes. This in turn gives them the right to receive pension when they retire, and to be insured through the different compensations in the national welfare system. This is what we mean when we talk about a formal and regulated labor market. People who have a job have an opportunity to be economic independent. In the case of Norway, women participate in the labor market at almost the same level as men. This gives economic independence to both women and men. The second thing we notice when we look at work life in Norway is that gender equality is a political priority and a strategy to reduce inequality in the population. The value of gender equality has been recognized across all political parties in Norway for decades, and there has been political consensus to prioritize a high participation of both women and men in the labor force. And this is a political priority for this government, and has been for several governments in Norway, and it still is. So the political will to promote gender equality makes a big difference, and is part of the explanation why Norway has such good results. With a very high level of gender equality, and with women participating in the labor market at almost the same level as men. However, Norway still has challenges on gender equality in work life. These are more women than men work part-time. Norway has a highly gender segregated work life, and we're still working to reach equal pay for equal work. Next. To explain the Norwegian model, or to explain the Norwegian case, I have to say a few words about the Norwegian model. It contains three main institutional structures: a comprehensive and generous welfare system with universal rights, a strong legal foundation securing individual rights to every worker, and the tripartite cooperation. However, it's not enough to only have rules and rights only related to the workplace. Every one of us leaves work at the end of the day, and we live our lives outside the workplace. Many of us have caretaker responsibilities at home. This is why we need policies that promote women's participation in work life and facilitate for both work life and family life, the combination. It has to be possible to work and have children at the same time. The third element in the Norwegian model is the political economy. And there's a clear interaction between the institutional structures in work life and the policies for gender equality and the national economy. And this model has for years given Norway a healthy economy, an even distribution of the national income and wealth, a high degree of gender equality within the population. And we now know that Norway's wealth also comes from the knowledge of women and men working. Next. So what is the Tripartite Cooperation? It's a cooperation and a dialogue between the government and the employer and employees organization, also known as the social partners. It handles collective bargaining and collective agreements, and it's very active in presenting arguments and insights in reforms for work life. Every worker has a right to be a member of a trade union. Around 50% of all workers in Norway are a member of a trade union, and the level of trade union connection has been pretty much the same over the 10 past year. The Tripartite Cooperation has a long tradition in Norway and is recognized as a structure that brings a sense of democracy into work life. It ensures that workers' interests are heard and that they are involved. The Tripartite Cooperation is seen as an important factor in bringing more women into the labour market and also for securing decent working conditions. Next. Norway has strong labour and employment laws. These are individual legal rights. Norway is a member of ILO and ratifies most of the important ILO conventions and human rights conventions. These obligations are followed up through the national law. The first Working Environment Act in Norway came into force in 1977. It represents maybe the most important milestone for work life in Norway. The act secures rights at the workplace and opens up for flexibility to family responsibility. It provides a high degree of safety to everybody who works. The Gender Equality Act, first implemented in 1977, states women's rights and protection against discrimination and is equally important. It provides a strong legal protection against discrimination on the basis of gender, and it has been further strengthened in 2018. The government is currently working on strengthening the legal framework in work life. According to the government platform, the government will implement the ILO conventions into Norwegian law, and the government is currently reviewing new international obligations through the ILO Convention number 119. So, next. The last thing I'd like to say, which has already been mentioned, is that gender equal work life requires that the government facilitates for women's participation. Norway has a generous comprehensive welfare system with universal rights for everybody, financed through the taxes. This includes free access to equality, education, and healthcare services. The work and family life policies facilitates shared parenthood and equality between parents, both at home and in work life. And of course, the paid parental leave. We have the kindergarten, childcare facilities, and other universal facilities. But more importantly is that we have access to technology, which allows us to continue to work during the pandemic. And we also work very hard with the collection of research, data, and statistics, and to follow the situation at every time. Next. I think I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for listening. I look forward to your questions and to the further discussions today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Juliet Namulibirawa Havlan. We have an ambitious agenda, but it was a very informative presentation setting the stage for the panel discussion coming up. But before we dive into that, we will have a 5-minute break. So we will be back here at 1:45 in about 5 minutes. So see you soon all.